look, I wanted to spice it up for you guys. So I wanted to show you Spence and Dr. J, baby.
Welcome to a special edition of the Putback on SNY.TV, headlined by the Blockbuster in Brooklyn. I'm Ian Begley. That's Chris Williamson. Chris, I'm pretty sure I know where we're going with the baseline this week.
Yeah, Ian, it's one of the most explosive trades in recent history. The Brooklyn Nets acquiring James Harden to form a Brooklyn Big Three with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
Chris, even more so now, it's championship or bust in Brooklyn with James Harden in town. This is a deal that Kevin Durant was in support of. And even earlier this season, when the rumors started to pop up, I was told that Durant was in support of it. So Durant gets reunited with Harden. Steve Nash has three incredible offensive players.
Like you said, they're in a win now mode. Like this year, Kyrie, Katie, and Harden all have player options. They threw away all of their picks basically to get Harden. But there's uncertainty with Kyrie. What does this do for Mr. Irving?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he wasn't in the trade, right? But there's still uncertainty surrounding Kyrie Irving. I know that some people in the organization are frustrated with Irving in the current situation. Obviously, he's been away from the team for 5 games due to personal reasons. NBA is looking into whether he may have violated the league's COVID protocols when he was attending a party recently indoors without a mask. And so there's frustration within the net organization around Kyrie. They don't know. Nobody really knows when Kyrie is going to be back. He's not expected back by the end of this week. I had a source tell me earlier this week he might be out for a little longer than that, a while. So there's uncertainty there. And then if he comes back on the court, it's fitting Irving, Harden, and Durant together. Again, 3 guys who are incredible on the offensive end, but will need touches. So it's going to be a process here for Brooklyn and Irving, Durant, and Harden.
And earlier this week, we talked to Nets superfan Evan Roberts about Kyrie Irving's absence. This week's guest is Evan Roberts, the co-host of Carden Roberts on WFAN. He's also a big-time Nets fan and the host of the Evan Roberts podcast.
It's infuriating. I mean, I knew when they signed on to bring in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, there would be drama. I accepted that. I embraced it. But we are weeks into the NBA season. He's disappeared. We don't know when he's coming back. We don't know if the Nets are ticked off at him. And every game matters because chemistry is important. We saw what happened to the LA Clippers last year. So it's not necessarily about winning every single game as much as a diehard fan. I care about that. It's about these guys sharing the floor together and learning how to play together. So frustrating would be the word to describe what's been going on recently with Kyrie and the team in general.
Now, obviously, Kyrie, personal reasons, he wants to sit out. He needs to sit out. You know, I'm not here to question that, but I just wonder if there is a disconnect between how this thing was communicated and if the Nets are upset about it.
Part of being a head coach, which Steve Nash is figuring out, is communicating with the media, which is in essence the fans. All right, it's not just about communicating, no offense, with you, but it's communicating with all the fans out there.
That's what it's all about.
Steve Nash is learning how to do that. You know, as a star NBA player, it's a little different than representing a basketball team. And you're right, he could have answered that very differently. A part of it is he doesn't have a lot of experience with this.
Do you have the confidence in Steve for him to be the Nets coach for a long time, or what do you think?
I'm going to be nice. He's off to a very bad start. And that's me being nice, because being mean would say, no, I have no confidence in him and he's awful. I don't know. He can grow. Jason Kidd, and I really don't want to compare Steve Nash to Jason Kidd, but getting off to a lousy start is something similar. Being without a key player because of an injury, that's something similar. But to Jason's credit, the team adjusted. So I'm going to learn my lessons of I have to give him time. But he's not off to a good start. He's not off to a good start on every level, whether it's having Jared Allen not re-enter a game until it was way too late Friday night against Memphis, whether it's his lack of urgency in using a timeout. In many ways, Steve Nash is off to a tough start. Doesn't mean he can't be a successful NBA head coach, but it hasn't been an encouraging beginning, to put it nicely.
Peace, 1 2 1 2. Check it out. This is Skyzoo, MC, lyricist, ghostwriter, Brooklyn, New York native and representative, and of course, blue and orange faithful, Knicks fan all day. You know how we doing it. Rocking out live at the Putback. Yo, check it out, man. Fellas, what do y'all think the plans are for the Knicks for the point guard situation going forward? You know, if you're a Knicks fan like I am, you know, point guard has been a topic of discussion for the past 5, 10, maybe even 20 years as far as a need and a necessity that we just haven't been able to figure out yet. We haven't been able to lock that down yet. and it's something that we need to handle immediately.
Sky, great to have you on the show. Personal highlight for me was you referencing me on one of your songs. I can't wait to play that for my kids when they get a little older.
If I tell it, then y'all bet it. I'm Ian Begley.
As far as the Nick point guard situation, I mean, maybe it's Emmanuel Quickly. Maybe he surprises teams and evaluators who looked at him in Kentucky, and he becomes a top lead guard in this league. But I think that more likely this is going to be answered through the draft. Like, the Knicks probably are not going to have a great record this year. They'll probably end up in the lottery, and that's going to give him an opportunity to draft a point guard in 2021, a class that is expected to be extremely deep. So I would look draft first. And if it doesn't happen there, obviously you go the free agency route. But I think primary focus for the Knicks should be draft when it comes to the point guard spot.
I see sometimes Knick-Net fans kind of have back and forths about like TV ratings or attendance. And if I was a Knick fan or a Net fan, I wouldn't be able to care less about those numbers. For me, it would just be about wins and losses, and that's it. But what do you think? Does that matter to you as a Net fan?
I do not care if the Nets are more popular than the Knicks, mainly because the Nets are never going to be more popular than the Knicks. Do I find it obnoxious that every few days, Knicks fans, some, not all, have to remind me of that? We're more popular than you. We've got the back page.
Right.
It's dopey, and it probably sometimes annoys me. But yeah. I'm more concerned with the team. I mean, I really don't care if they get the back page. I want to be at a parade. That's what I want to be at. And trust me, if Knicks fans are going to tell me there were only 50,000 people at your parade, I'm going to laugh. I think some Net fans care. We definitely have a little brother syndrome. Yeah. But we have to accept that we're always going to be the little brother. And that's okay. If you're a kid, even if the Nets aren't great, like if you're a kid, you're 8 years old right now, and you're growing up in Brooklyn, I think there's going to be a pride in I have a basketball team. But that said, if you're a 50-year-old guy living in Brooklyn, of course you're not going to become a Nets fan. I wouldn't expect you to. You are a Knicks fan. That's your team. That's where the Nets will be able to at least have inroads specifically in the borough, because I think there's going to be a pride in I actually have a basketball team.
You know, there's not really too much bad blood, you know, between the two teams, but for the sake of the NBA and ratings, do you think this would be something that the NBA would be able to capitalize off of?
I think so. I think it'd be fun. I mean, I think it'd be great for the town. I mean, I love the NBA, and I know this from doing a sports talk show. We don't talk as much about the NBA as we should, and it's because the teams haven't been good. I mean, that's really the reason, and not just not good, like not relevant in terms of even competing to be good. And I miss that. Like I've always said to my Knicks fan friends, as much as I dislike the Knicks, I'm always honest about that. I don't like the Knicks. I don't want them to ever win anything because I'm jealous. I'm a Nets fan, like I've said. I know that it would be really good for the sport if they were good and the Nets were good, and then the bickering back and forth would actually be about basketball and not about who has back pages or TV ratings. So not just for the NBA, it would definitely be good for the NBA, but I think it'd just be great for basketball in this town, for that to be a real rivalry as opposed to fan bases arguing about stupid things.
Wanted to get another perspective on the Kyrie Irving situation, so we're bringing in Marcus Gradney, maybe better known as M-Grads on Twitter. He's maybe one of the most controversial, influential members of NBA Twitter. Some people love him, some people hate him. Maybe you fall somewhere in between, but he's also a member of the elite media group that broke the James Harden COVID story over the summer, so keep an eye on those guys. Marcus, we're sitting here on Monday afternoon. The show airs Wednesday afternoon. A lot could change between now and Wednesday. The Kyrie situation. I know you like to sometimes weigh in on the media and how things are covered. What were your thoughts about what you saw on social media, the reaction to Kyrie's absence for personal reasons?
Well, it's funny because when people say that we need somebody to speak up for the NBA, we need somebody to be a voice for, you know, social change and this and that. When Kyrie does it, oh yeah, everybody, but not you, Kyrie, because you're too weird. You think the world is flat. I don't see the problem with what Kyrie's doing. I just think that, like, when people who don't understand the culture or what he's doing, when they don't understand, they tend to, you know, talk bad about it. You know, like this is like what hate what they don't understand, fear what they can't conquer. And I think that's how it's looked at with Kyrie. They don't understand him, so they hate him. He's telling you how he feels and why he's doing stuff. Like, you guys ask for people to protest, you guys ask for people to speak up about what's going on, and he's doing that. Kyrie's just like, oh, I'm not going to play. And then if the whole NBA doesn't play, then it comes to like, oh, well, you know, these guys aren't even trying to make a change. But then when Kyrie doesn't, he's trying to make a change, he's getting vilified for it.
So to the Net fan that says he's making $34 million.
See, that's another thing. Like, I just think it needs to stop. We got to stop pocket watching these NBA players because the owners make billions. Nobody says anything about them. Who cares how much money he makes? He's a man. He has an idea. He worked his ass off to make that much money. People think that NBA players just get to the NBA and they're like, oh, you know what? We like you, so we're going to give you $34 million a year. I'm not saying because he makes that money, he deserves to act this way. But what I'm saying is we can't say, well, he makes his money, so he shouldn't be acting this way. Professional athletes are dehumanized. They're not humans. They're entertainment. So they're looked at as, like entertainment. White, black, it doesn't matter. Athletes, entertainment. What is needed now in the world to distract us from COVID? Entertainment, sports. So it's basketball. We can watch it. Football, we can get involved, and it's like, it takes you away from COVID. There's still the real world is still going on. And when Kyrie is saying like, I'm not happy with what's going on in the real world, he's getting vilified. So as a fan who pays the money, educate your kids so it doesn't keep on happening. That's what we need.
Thanks, Marcus. For Evan Roberts and Chris Williamson, I'm Ian Begley. We'll see you next week on the Putback.